right? And lastly, like all good old Hindi serials, I'm going to meander a little bit all around the place, but I'm going to try and make sure that I tie everything together at the end, right? That grand finale. So having said that, just a little bit about Tata Elxsi. We were the first company that Ratan Tata set up after he became chairman. So we're 27 years old today. Interestingly, 5,000 odd people, average age of 27, right? So that's both experience as well as energy there. We work in very select things. So we are not the TCS, right? So we're not 15 billion. We're 200 million, and we do certain things fantastically well. We're doing fairly well on the stock market too, right? So Mumbai share market. So our share is appreciated 10x consecutively in the last 10 quarters, right? So if you ever invested 10 quarters before, you would have bought it for 300 rupees, and you buy it for a 10x now, right? So stay invested. What are we about? 4,000 odd people in technology with centers across the world and an award-winning design team, right? The largest in Asia. We have designers right from the Royal College of Arts to the Art Center Pasadena, to the NIDs, to the NIFTs, to IDC, IIT Bombay, a fantastic team of designers who create products and experiences. And that's why our tagline, very clearly, engineering creativity, right? A few verticals that we work in. Of course, the one that is of relevance to us is broadcast and media, which also happens to be our largest. We go right from silicon, so we work with the Intels and the Qualcomms of the world, right to analytics and big data. State-of-the-art infrastructure, so we have labs that are fantastic, right from OTT testing to Wi-Fi testing to broadcast and video testing and so on. So you find fantastic labs in all our dev centers. We are, of course, Make in India, biggest one in Bangalore, and then Trivandrum, Pune, Chennai, and so on. But we deliver to the world. We have about 20 sales offices. Our customers and our business is predominantly overseas, 99% overseas, right? Our broadcast practice contributes about half of our revenues, 2,000 odd people. We work with almost the who's who of the industry, right from the biggest operators in each of the markets. So we work with Comcast in the US, we work with Time Warner there, we work with Rogers there. When you come to Europe, we work with Sky on one hand, we work with Liberty Global, who's the largest international pay TV operator in the world. When you come to India, we work with an Airtel, with a Tata Sky, and so on and so forth. So with OTT, right? So first of all, big thanks to all our customers here. And for those who are not, what are you waiting for, right? And now I'm going to start tying it in, right? So let's look at what kind of work we do. So if you look at that first set of images there, that's consumer research. We did 5-continent, 15-country research for Unilever for their Quality Walls brand of ice creams, right? And the idea here was to figure out what are the ice cream eating habits across the world, right? And what is it that Unilever can do to create a sustainable packaging design that caters to this market, right? So right from the US, where it's all big tubs, to India, where it's candies and cones, to Europe, which is different, habits are completely different everywhere. The flavors they like, the size of the packaging, the kind of packaging, the period of shelf life, everything is different. The only thing that we found common was that everybody likes to support Mother Earth, everybody likes to be green, as long as you don't have to pay for it, right? So that's one trend that you'll find, like in your OTT and TV market, there are certain trends that are common irrespective of which geography you go. And I'll contrast that with the next, which is where we worked for PepsiCo when they launched their first snack, right, in India. If you remember Lay's, and then you had this whole Aliva crackers, and they had this beautiful portfolio of products that were sitting in the US and all their global markets. And they said, what of this applies to India? And we actually found, after doing research that spanned about 6 months across all of India, rural, semi-urban, urban, all age groups, that none of their product portfolios fit. So finally what we designed was an extremely salty snack that resembled a samosa that you could eat in the evening, but was healthy and baked, right? And did extremely well. So that's an interesting insight about localization and personalization. But I really want you to take away one thing. research. Deep consumer research, whether you do it analytically driven, I would prefer not statistically, but deep analytics, direct consumer research, I think there's nothing that substitutes that. Moving on, there. So another thing that we did, right? And for all you travelers, this is the Terminal 2 of Mumbai International Airport, designed by Tata Elxsi. And what was a brief? Make it a great passenger experience, right? And the whole idea here was not just about elements of it. The idea was to first stand back, look at an airport. What's an airport about? It's the movement of passengers of different types. People who are just in a hurry, want to get from point A to point B. People who are traveling for leisure, they want to be able to sit down, want to be able to browse, want to be able to shop. So there are travelers of all kinds. Segment them. There is utilities. There are crews traveling through. So how do you make sure that you design an airport for the experience that you want, right? And I'm happy to say, it was awarded the World's Best Airport 2015 for its category, right? 25 to 40 million pax in its service quality, right? It's won quite a few awards since. Continuing on the journey of experience, we are the principal consultants for passenger experience for the Kochi Metro, right? By the way, we did signages for Mumbai Metro, we did Bangalore Metro, we did Bangalore International Airport, but this is an interesting one because the whole idea of experience here is the fact that a metro is not just about getting onto a station, boarding your train, getting off that train at your destination and walking out. The understanding of a journey of a customer is really about where is he starting from and where does he want to go at the end. And this is just the transient point of the journey, right? So we have actually worked to design a system that incorporates Uber, that incorporates Ola, that incorporates local bus companies, taxi companies, rickshaws, but you build an experience that allows passengers seamless movement from start to end. Payment options that allow you to pay by card, pay by prepaid Oyster-like card that you can buy in the beginning. You can use it across service providers. You can even use it to buy stuff inside the stations and so on and so forth. Right? Last example that goes outside of the TV domain. This is the experience for a car that we did for Nissan. It's not in the market. It's called Friend and Me, showcased at the Shanghai Motor Show. The concept here is very unique. If you look at the car, the infotainment console flows right from the beginning to the back seats. Right? So you can actually use the infotainment console of the car irrespective of where you sit in the car, whether you're the driver, passenger, or the rear passengers. And what's the context here? That China, as you know, single-child policy, there's been 1-2 generations that have gone by, so you actually have an alienation of kids from the parents. They relate more to their peers because they don't have siblings. They relate to their peers rather than the generation above. And they are much more digital than you ever imagined. So you now have a car where people don't have to talk. You can interact digitally irrespective of where you sit, all through touch. Right? Equally, we are pushing the boundaries of research as we work for, let's say, some of the top luxury brands in the world in terms of cars. We're doing voice, we're doing touch, we're doing gesture. So you have gesture recognition for certain interactions in the car in terms of radio stations and so on. What we're actually working on now is gaze detection, right? Where you look at the screen and there are cameras sitting on top of a visor that are telling you where you're looking, and it opens up that menu card, right? So that's interaction for you. And we see this multimodal interaction coming into TV experiences, at least with some of the leading operators that we're working for, right? So moving on, consumers, a lot of things that have been said, smart idiot box. So 3 specific areas that will continue to be terribly important. Great content, of course. Flexibility in terms of where consumers want to watch it, how they want to watch it, how they want to pay, and a fantastic quality of experience. Right? So those are absolutely underpinnings of what you want to deliver to consumers. No more family TV consumption, well understood trend. We are seeing it more and more even back home here. Screen jumping, screen disloyalty. So whether it's moving from one screen to another and watching the same content, or actually watching 2 things in parallel, so you are going to see more of this. Mobile viewing. So why not TV too, right? So obviously, as people decline in terms of number of hours watched on TV, you're going to see an equivalent on streamed content via mobile or iPad or other second screen devices, right? We have seen this absolutely clearly in the markets that we've worked in. We are starting to see it in India too, right? My penny, my piece, simply about whether people want to pay in the first place, and if they want to pay, what do they pay for? Do they pay for a specific piece of content? Do they pay for an episode? Do they pay for time? I think we're going to see fairly interesting innovations being demanded in terms of payment, right? And that's going to keep OTT and operators on their toes in terms of how the technology keeps up, what kind of ecosystem they tie up, and how they actually get consumers to pay. Appointment viewing is dead. So in my case, I can at least relate very, very clearly, right? The whole episode of Smriti Irani and Kanhaiya Kumar and so on, I saw it purely through my friends sharing it to me via WhatsApp, watching clips either on that or going back and searching for clips pertaining to this. I never saw any of that entire sequence of events ever live, ever, right? I saw it purely through recommendations, through what my friends shared with me, and so on and so forth. The other trend is, of course, view, share, and engage, continuing on the aspect of social media. So obviously, we are seeing that trend catch on. We have also seen an interesting journey, right? So we first started working with Smart TV, who wanted to create a small internal ecosystem where you owned a Sony or a Panasonic TV, and you could have a social conversation with somebody else who also owned a Sony or a Panasonic TV. Obviously, that never took off because the bloody user base is so small, right? That you really don't have somebody else to talk to, and definitely not within your friend base. We saw that being deployed by operators. So we worked with some of those biggies that I pointed out there, who tried to create a similar social experience within their ecosystem. So if you are a Comcast subscriber, you can have social conversations, whether on your second screen or your iPad or so on, even as your program went on, that allowed you to connect with your friend circle. Doesn't work when you're trying to create closed ecosystems, right? So they now opened it up fully, but social is here to stay, right? There is social there that engages you even as you're watching content live. All things smart, TV at heart. Again, a live example of what we are seeing with operators. So let me step back and give you a little bit of a story, right? So 2010 is when we first engaged with Comcast, world's biggest operator. 2010 was also a very interesting year for Comcast. A few things happened. One, and it may seem not true, iPad was launched in 2010. LTE was first launched in the US in 2010. So it was the first time that either on a mobile or iPad, you could actually get content streamed at speeds that are decent enough for you to watch video, high quality video. Apple TV launched their second generation of Apple TV that supported streaming. Google TV launched first time in 2010. For Comcast, it was the first year where their TV subscribers were lesser than their internet subscribers. So Comcast, instead of becoming the largest pay TV operator in the world, suddenly became the largest internet service provider in the world. Most importantly, they also won the Golden Poo Award for the worst consumer experience that year, right? So it was at that time that they actually ran a global search to find a company that they could partner with. 200 odd shortlisted, the who's who of the world, downlisted to 27, downlisted to 3, and we were the ones standing at the end, right? So we worked with them for the last 6 years. We have been on the journey of the entire development of Xfinity as a service. So if you understand Xfinity, it's a fantastic platform for many reasons. One, it's completely a middleware that's owned by Comcast, right? And then open sourced out. So anybody can adopt RDK, the middleware for deployment in any kind of environment, cable or otherwise. And that was meant to compete with anything that Apple and Google would come up with, right? Make it a community open source platform. It supports multi-screen, it supports social, it supports almost all modes of interaction that you would like. It is IP based, so it is OTT even to start with, right? It is linear and hybrid to start with. And then it has fantastic features on top. Connecting to the slide here, what Comcast has done, going beyond data, voice, and TV, they've also now started to bundle in smart home services. So what do you get? You get all your appliances connected through the set-top box that Comcast provides. So it supports Zigbee, it supports Bluetooth, it supports Wi-Fi. And now your service provider is suddenly your smart home provider. So whether it's your security cameras, whether it's your whether it's your door sensors, whether it's your appliances, you now get a tablet that you control everything with inside the home. When you go out, use your mobile. Log into the Comcast account, you're on, right? So that's a very, very interesting trend that we find with operators. There are a few operators who are not doing B2C, they're going B2B with their connectivity in terms of telematics solutions, navigation solutions for cars, and so on and so forth, right? So that's an interesting trend for operators at least, right? Death of patience, I don't have to tell you more. No one wants to watch content as it is doled out piecemeal. So binge watching, like all my friends before have said, you will see that coming. Will it be a big thing? Will it be everybody? Maybe not. It'll be a small segment. But the interesting thing is, in India, even small such segments are big enough, right? And will that lead to a different trend of how you serve content, how you price for it? I think that's what we are yet to see, right? Rise of TV apps. So this is the other interesting part, right? So even as you get now 20 apps that describe 20 channels for you, can I go one level deeper? Can I get an app that is just for that particular piece of content that I like watching? So would I have an app for Game of Thrones alone? Would I have an app for House of Cards alone? Would I have an app just for Big Boss, right? And I'm not concerned about anything else. So I'll have an app within an app. And that is a trend that we have seen elsewhere. Of course, we're seeing it in India too, right? We are seeing OTT providers as well as content providers start to break down their content and try and offer apps that are very specific to those segment of viewers, right? And there you get loyalty. There you get repeat visits, you get loyalty. You're also making it easy for consumers to get to what they want rather than having to navigate through a whole journey of the mother app itself, right? Gamification, augmented reality, smart TV ads. We're working on quite a few things. We did quite a few things with Google Glass when it came up. Unfortunately, that went to sleep. But having said that, we're doing a fairly interesting set of things with analytics at this time, right? On one hand, if you understand Comcast, they're getting as good as a Google or an Amazon would with recommendations. So they have a fantastic recommendation engine that's running behind that is actually polling every user for their profile. What it's also doing, and this is another trend that we're seeing, while a TV is for a family, right? And therefore, you don't know who from the family is watching it. What we are starting to see is halos created around the kind of viewing that's happening in the home to create personas. So you're getting personas created in the home saying, hey, this is now the kid watching, and this is what they will see. And this is the dad watching, and this is what you'll recommend. And this is the mom watching. And the system does that intelligently, right? So it's no longer an aggregated family kind of recommendation. You're getting personas created just through analytics. And then recommendations thrown up based on who the system believes is watching this TV right now, right? That is on one hand. On the other hand, we've been working with big data. So we daily poll about 25 petabytes of data from the 22 million subs that this operator has. And we have got to a point where we can predict 2 hours in advance any set-top box failing within those 22 million subscribers. 2 hours predictive diagnostics of the box failure. We have not yet got to where we can predict network failures. We'll get there soon, right? But the point is, analytics works both ways. It works from a perspective of consumers. It equally works from a perspective of customer experience, in terms of not having the customer report a problem and then wait for solutions, but you being able to say that this box is going to break down and getting somebody there, or doing a software update if it's just a software bug, right? So we are seeing that kind of analytics being deployed actively. We are actually working on some of these, right? There are other aspects of gamification too, without doubt. So we end up as a team, right? 2,000 odd people, architects in every space, designers. So we all sit down and think about how do we see the future panning out? Right? How does the future pan out now? How does the future pan out now in Western countries, now in India? How does it pan out in terms of 2 years from now, How does it pan out 5 years? We are, like I said, future gazing, right? Some of the things that we think will be right will not be right. But the idea is to be able to look at how things connect, whether it's from payment, whether it's from devices, whether it's from environments, content, social. So what we're trying to do at this time is try and build these connections that enable operators, broadcasters, aggregators to figure out where the world is going, what is the technology that you'll need, and where a consumer is going, who will pay for it, right? And what do you need to drive, and in what time frame. And this is something that we do on and on and on, right? That's built into our DNA. So just to summarize, ingredients, right? So technology, definitely the enabler. I don't have to say more. So make sure that you're getting the right pieces of technology together, and you have options. You can go aggregate it with one supplier, you can disaggregate it, you can look at multiple suppliers, gives you better control, but equally makes it a headache to manage. So I'm going to leave those debates to the customers in terms of what direction they want to take strategically. Are there pieces that they want to own themselves? Do they really want to go third party with everything? These are questions that are possibly best addressed by the customers themselves, but we do have a fair bit of experience in consulting and advising customers on what we have seen in all our 20 odd years of working with operators across the world, with broadcasters across the world, right? Make sure whatever you're doing, it provides you flexibility, provides you scalability, provides you adaptability, right? And of course, I'll end with an ad. So we do have an OTT framework that Tadalexi provides. So we would be quite happy to show you what we do, kind of customers that have used that. And that could be something that is in consideration set for you, right? Second, consumer experience. Don't underestimate the need for research. Spend a lot of time on consumer research. And like I said, you will have to supplement it in multiple directions. You will have to do analytics, yes, but you'll also have to do deep, dirty consumer research, right? It will take time, it will take some money, but it is worth doing. Simply because insights that work elsewhere in the world do not work here, right? So user experience, personalized, localized, so on and so forth. Equally, quality of experience, right? And again, here I go back to Comcast, where for the last 1 year, we have deployed a product called AVQM, Audio Video Quality Monitoring, which probes the entire network, right from curation, ingest, to the end consumer point, to figure out where is there a break in the quality of service, which is the quality of video or the quality of audio, and then provide alerts to the respective operations teams to say, hey, go and fix this, but this is what is broken. It is in this region, it is with this class of devices. So the idea here is that sometimes you tend to get a lot of customer feedback, whether it's to your call centers or whether it's in social. Hey, this Comcast sucks, or this particular ODD provider sucks. I don't get any programs, neither their quality is not good, and fundamentally it may not be anything to do with the provider themselves. It will be down the chain, right from the CDN to the local connection provider to maybe even the device, right? And what we've done is build a solution that allows you to monitor and probe quality all through that chain, right? And this is something that has been running for the last 1 year in Comcast. We've just got it into 2 OTT providers in India. And the idea is simply look at quality of experience, not just as UI, UX, terribly important, but also look at it as consistent, sustainable quality of experience through the customer lifecycle, right? Third, agility. And I think given the fact that this whole market is in evolution, right? There are no clear answers, whether it's in the Western world or whether it's in India, in terms of the path to money, what will work, what will not work. It's going to be a great deal of experimentation. You are going to take risks, you are going to experiment with certain things, you're going to experiment with technology, you're going to experiment with payment models, with content, with the way it is delivered, with consumers. So even as technology provides you that flexibility, make sure that your operations and your processes are in place. And this is a fantastic learning that we've got from working with so many customers. They have great processes designed for what they were doing. They're not great processes designed for what will be needed for OTT, right? And I'll give you the example of Comcast. Comcast used to have one major release of their entire service once a year, annual release. New EPG, new features added, rolled out to all their consumers across the entire United States. They've got to a point where they actually now have releases once in a month. It's like Facebook. It's like Chrome. It's like anything that you see from the internet world. They release once a month. It contains fixes for problems that people have reported in the previous versions. It also brings in completely new features, whether it's voice-controlled remote, whether it's new recommendation engines, whether it's a search tool that allows you to search intelligently. Everything is released time, month on month on month, right? And as customers, you'll have to think of not just your vendors, right? Your vendors may or may not be capable of this, but are you as a company geared to support that kind of cycle time, that kind of agility, right? Because that is what you'll need in order to keep your customers engaged. So I'm going to stop with that. Prioritized, aligned, future-proof. For just in case of interest, there is something that we have been working on that the Facebooks and the Googles used called DevOps, right? So development operation. So it allows you to take products right from development stage right down to deployment with the consumers, right? So it's called DevOps. It's a model of agile, but it works. It is tweaked. It's tweaked for this world of broadcast. And we've been building tools to help customers get into a DevOps model, right? It's not an easy thing. Believe me, it's traumatic. Even for a company like Comcast, it took them 2 years to do this. But I don't think there's a choice, right? So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nitin Pai. So we'll present to you like a little token from Data Access. So thank you. Thank you for being here today.